Alright guys, welcome to another video. My name is Tyrone, also known as Odly Otter. Today we're going to chat very quickly about NAS drives. This is the NAS drive over here. A couple of people have asked me what a NAS drive is in conversation, so I thought I'd make a video because I recently got my hands on this particular one, which is actually a D-Link 327L. Models aren't super important. This one is still available online, but they're not exactly the newest model. There are newer ones out there. But anyway, let's talk about what these are. So NAS stands for Network Access Storage, right? So if you look at the back of this little guy, you've got a power, you've got a LAN, and you've got a USB 3 port. So what is the LAN for? Well, it's a network drive. I'm popping off the top of this thing. If you look inside of it, you'll see it's empty, but inside of it you have a little motherboard with two SATA drives. I don't know if you can see that clearly. Let me grab a drive. Basically what a NAS drive is this enclosure. You then take a hard drive and you clip it in like so, and now that basically makes this hard drive that I've just plugged in accessible via a network. So I would take this little guy now, I'll take his little power supply, plug him in. Let's go do that quickly. Alright, so here we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the power supply and plug that in. And then going to take the LAN cable and plug that in. And then I'm just going to push the power button. See a little blinking light over there. See those come online. And giving this thing about a minute to boot up, it will then become available on my network. Now this is a 2-bay unit. You do get other ones 4 bays, 1 bay. I'm particularly a fan of more than 2 bays, and I'll explain that to you in the next shot when we're looking at this thing on the network. Let's go do that. Okay, and we are back. As you can see, we're currently on my my computer, and we're at the login screen for the NAS drive. One question you guys might be asking yourselves right now is, how do I actually get here? Well, as you can see here at the top of my screen, I have an IP address that I've typed in that's taken me to the login page. Generally, if you buy a new NAS drive, it will come with the software that you need that will take you through the setup wizard. It will take you to a place where it will show you the IP address, and you can log in via that. Because this is a NAS drive that I already have, I've just plugged it in and scanned my network and found that IP address to be the new one on my network, and I'm just going there directly. I'm going to log straight in here. Okay, and as you log in, you'll generally get to a screen that looks something like this, where you've got a couple of options at the top of the screen. The setup wizard, the disk management. I'll go through a couple of these very quickly. Nice thing about this particular software, on the right hand side over here, you guys might be able to see this area here is all information basically on how to get going and setting things up on the software. It's kind of cool. It kind of gives you just a bit of an extra understanding if you're new to all of this. So if I had to click on the run wizard, you can see here on the startup page I can set passwords and change time zone or make particular LAN or IP connection settings that I would like to do. I can put device information in and do a config. I'll just take you through these screens very quickly. I'm not going to actually set anything up because I don't need to. This device is already on my network and I'm happy the way things are. And it's not an instructional video on how to set these up, just an explanation of what they are. So, password information if I need it, where I am in terms of time zone, IP address that I want to put in, the device information for how I want to recognize it on my network. And if I really want to, I can set up this email section that will send me an alert when there's something I wanted to tell me. And I don't have an SMTP server, so that's not going to work. I'm just going to exit this and then move on. Okay, let's talk very quickly about disk management. I mentioned earlier that I prefer 2-bay units over 1-bay units, and let me just explain why that is. So when you have 2 bays in the NAS drive or 2 hard drives that you can put in, the really cool thing you can do is something called RAID, and there's an explanation of that over here, but I'll basically just explain it to you. You can take 2 hard drives and put them into a unit, and have the one mirror the other. So you have an exact copy of the one hard drive to the second hard drive that you've got set up. This helps with backups, which is the key reason I like it. If you're trying to back up things onto a NAS drive, or you're trying to keep media on a NAS drive, the worst thing that can happen to you is that your hard drive itself fails. So having two drives would help you to protect yourself from that. You'll take the one drive and copy all the information onto that. The other drive will just sit there passively copying information across as a backup, and if the one drive fails, you take out the failed hard drive, you put a new hard drive in, and the good hard drive will start cloning the information back to the new drive. So anyway, as you can see, hard drive configuration. We plugged in this hard drive. I have done a quick format already, but this basically explains everything I've already kind of mentioned. The device information in terms of the hard drives you got in, that's the one that we plugged in. The kind of array that you have, just because there's only one in this NAS drive right now, I can only choose this one option. But if I had more than one drive, I could choose how I want those to be configured, whether I want two drives to act as two separate drives, or if I want the one drive to clone the other. But that is, it's up to you, and it kind of depends on the NAS drive that you have. This here is giving me information. Do I want to encrypt the drive, yes or no? And what do I want to do? As you can see here, just another key thing I want to highlight is the file system. When you plug a hard drive into a NAS drive, if you're doing this yourself, or if it's a unit that you buy off the shelf, the file system is different to what you would expect in a Windows environment. This is just the way that things work, because the file system that Microsoft uses is exclusive to them. So XT4 is common among NAS drives, common around most networking hard drives, I suppose. Anything that is not Microsoft really works in Unix-based operating systems. But that's basically just so that the NAS drive itself can read it. I'm not going to click format because that's going to take a while. So I'm just going to exit this here. Account management is really cool if you want to have multiple users and different types of permissions. So if you have two people in your household and you don't want them to see each other's data, you could set up users and have passwords, and then they wouldn't be able to view each other's data unless they knew the password. The type of shares that you want, I've just got one flat share at the moment, and we'll get onto that in a minute. But you can basically set up quotas as well for your users. Very good in a small business environment. You can kind of just have a little bit of management over the space that you have, so you don't have one guy who's hogging all of it with a backup of his music from home or something silly like that. You can just have a set limit so that no one can abuse the system. Network, this is again if you need to get back to this type of space to do any editing yourself. Really cool thing about this, this dynamic DNS, DDNS, again, I don't want to get too technical, but the really cool thing with this is that if I set this up properly and I've got the username information that I've got from a provider of some kind, I can get to this drive from outside of my house and I can connect to it via the internet, as long as I've got the host name set up properly. That could be helpful if you're in another part of the world and you just need to get to a document on your NAS drive that is at home. You could set this up and basically log in and get it yourself. Application management, the really cool thing, we'll get really into this just now and I'll show you the other ones, but this is just the basic. Do I want this to act as an FTP server or an AFP server, which is an Apple type of sharing system? There's a whole bunch of little options there. System management, we can basically set up time zones and the device information. We can go through a whole bunch of these, but the real cool thing is that you have a power mode. So I can set this thing to go to sleep after a certain amount of time and just go to an ultra power saving mode, which is really, really cool. If the power fails in my home and it comes back, what do I want to do? I want it to automatically come online by having power recovery on, or stay off until I manually switch it on myself. The fan control, to obviously keep this thing a bit quiet, I can set it to auto and it will go from off and low and high depending on the internal temperatures. I can also make it available during certain times of the day, which is just another way to kind of just tighten up a bit of security and a little bit of power saving if you really need it. And yeah, I've got notifications if I need to do those emails, and I've got logs here if I need to actually push out logs to something. And you can see just a couple of random examples here of what is going on. So applications. Applications will differ depending on the type of NAS drive that you have. So I don't want to go too much into this. I'll just explain that you can use it to do peer-to-peer downloads. You can look at the files directly on the drive through a web browser. If you've got Google Drive or Dropbox or any of those type of accounts, basically any cloud account, you can set this NAS drive up or any NAS drive up to basically push data from your Dropbox to this drive without you having to be at home. So you've got a fresh copy when you get home, or you can set the information to be pushed from your NAS drive to the cloud, and that would be helpful if you're working off of this drive and saving information. It can do the sync while you're leaving the house to go to a meeting or anything else like that. Again, this will depend on the type of drive that you have, so I'm not going to explain too much more than just saying it does essentially make your hard drive a smart drive with applications. So let's have a quick look at what this drive would look like if I were to try to get to it from a normal Windows operating system. So as you can see here, I've just typed in the same IP address that I have into my web browser, and if I click OK, as you can see here is just volume 1, so I just double click on it, and you can see that I've got some random stuff that I've just copied on here very quickly as folders, and there's nothing in this folder, and some of the folders have things in it, and you just double click on them and they open up as you normally would. You could type whatever you want, and I can just save that, and there we go, it's updated the date. It's that simple. I can keep my music on here, I can keep any type of videos that I want on here. It is basically a hard drive that is plugged into my network and available to me on my computer, on my laptops, on my phone, and I can stream or upload to it without having to worry about switching on or booting up a PC to do so. Another really cool thing about these guys is that they do not consume a lot of power, and so that's completely different to having a computer that you've got on somewhere in a corner that is just operating all your shares for your home network. You can just get a NAS drive, do the same thing, but consume a lot less power. Well guys, I hope this video has been helpful to you. I've tried to keep it short, but I just wanted to give you an explanation as well as a demonstration of what NAS drives are for. If you have other tech stuff that you want explained, you can also hit me up in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, hit the like button, and I will catch you guys in another video soon. Live long and rock on.
Pause. Power.